Okay. And the magic machine tells me that I am live. So I will trust in the magic machine that I am indeed live. Not that it matters, because it is my intention to kind of ignore the live process and utilize the live recording functionality to just be a means to an end. We have taken a, a turn away from our J.Scott Garibay content for a while to concentrate on the world of jump chains. We will now be moving back to our friend Jay Scott, that is, in order to explore something that has been a a tentpole of one of the aspects of his output, but something that he hasn't necessarily concentrated on talking about for a hot minute. But he did talk about it today, so it's an opportunity for me to explore it with you today. Um, it also provides me an opportunity to have a space where I can both disagree with J. Scott Garibay about something while also having an opportunity to say, hey, about some things, we do have some common ground. The use of Funko Pops uh, as proxy miniatures in Dungeons and Dragons. The video, Hadrian72, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. First in the live chat. I don't know if you've been first in the live chat or before, you may have been, but gold medal onto you for live chat participation. The use of Funko Pops as proxy Dungeon Dragons miniatures. I have actually made a video about this subject, but I made the subject about the use of Funko Pop keychain um, miniature uses proxy miniatures. I have here, this is, I have some black pink uh, Funko Pop keychains, and I'm going to show you something. Here, if you just take one of these Funko Pop miniatures, this might be her name might actually be Rose. I'm not a Blackpink aficionado. I know that one song that everybody knows. If you just take a Funko Pop keychain, okay, and you just gently unscrew the keychain part, depending on your level of technical prowess and ability, you can either decide to, patch that hole or just leave the hole. If some of them freestand on their own, like Rose over here, just freestands on her own. I don't have a camera, so I can't move it. But you see her outfit here. She could be easily some sort of wizard garb, or some sort of, cyberpunk proxy. So I had made a video talking about you could take these and mount them on, with crazy glue or whatever, just mount them on your, you know, um, disc of choice. I have another one here. I had actually made a whole video about these, but I then at the end of the video had just kind of wandered off into a level of personal revelation that made me take the video and send it to private. I just got to get off my duff, and that was Rose. I have Lisa here, another lovely gal from Blackpink. I had a Wonder Woman keychain that I used in the last videos. Again, you just unscrew the keychain part. I doubt this one will stand on her own. I could see that she's a bit of angle, but then again, if you just with a little bit of crazy glue, put her on a little disc. Of course, you can use this as a proxy miniature in your tabletop game or you know tactical miniature game of choice. When the video that we're going to talk about today with J. Scott Garrett, I have another one. Might as well just unbox all three here. This is Jisoo. Jisoo, how do you do? My lovely little ladybird boo. Let's see. You can see Lisa's accoutrement and outfit can easily be Jonaside, second in the live chat. How you doing? Could be some sort of fighter thief. You know what I mean? Acrobat, if you will. We have these. Who's this now? Who am I talking about here? This is Jesu box over here. We just unscrew the keychain. You're down a keychain, but you're up a miniature, right? Look, she's got the lovely Middle Earth esque braids, and her outfit could easily pass for, it's good for all seasons, all areas of the world. Could easily be. Let's see if she freestands. Up, and she's standing. There you go. So right out of the box, keychain tops off, and they are absolutely at scale. But are they made for Dungeons and Dragons? And does the fact that they are approximately head size notwithstanding, approximately the same size as Dungeons and Dragons or any tabletop miniature scale, mean that they are canonical to Dungeons and Dragons? That's what we're going to have to explore in this video that we're going to talk about with J.Scott Garibay and explore his notion and idea of what makes things Dungeons and Dragons canon. We've explored this issue when he talks about Legos. Basically, to nutshell it and hopefully not put words in his mouth and hopefully not strawman his argument, though it's difficult to kind of steelman the argument, because the argument that he makes is very expansive, is that in regards to, say, Legos, and as we're going to see him explore today in regards to Funko Pops, because there are official Dungeons and Dragons Lego sets, and because Legos, by their very definition, are cross compatible. There are Harry Potter Lego sets that are cross compatible by definition of Lego to the official Dungeons and Dragons Lego sets. There are Transformers and Marvel Universe and DC Universe official Lego sets, and therefore, by the definition, by the nature of Lego, are cross compatible in all ways, shape, and forms with the official Dungeons and Dragons Lego sets. Therefore, MCU, DCU, Harry Potter, Friends, Golden Coin 100 joining us. Tighten up your game, Hammurabi. You only get a bronze this round. Though bronze, hey, the Bronze Age. Can't get to where we're going as a human civilization without the Bronze Age, right? You know what I mean? An attitude of gratitude. I wouldn't sneeze at bronze, like I said, right? Hey, hey, hey. Nothing sets off a bronze medal like a gold, right? Congratulations on your Twitch victory, Monfrere. Congratulations on your Twitch victory. So, excuse me. I stand corrected. Do these things because of their cross compatibility in Lego, or as J.Scott Garibay is going to explore today, in the world of Funko. There are official Dungeons and Dragons Funkos, though I don't have one. Oh, I can't believe I didn't bring over the Harpy. And at the same time, there are the boys, ironically holding up a Starlighter. I think Starlighter Express, Starlight, Hachi Machi, Funko Pop. Does that mean that because there are official Dungeons and Dragons Funko Pops and they're official The Boys Funko Pops, that the boys are now canonical bad, 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 bad boys? You make me feel so good with Dungeons and Dragons. Could that be? Well, we're going to explore with J.Scott Garibay's belief that it is the case that they are therefore uh, canonical to Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's a beautiful kind of fantastical thought. I think he's absolutely correct that you can play Dungeons and Dragons and use. He's gonna talk about using full scale Funko Pops as Dungeons and Dragons miniatures. I thought about doing that as well, though of course tabletop space at a premium it's going to be a large scale game. Not that you couldn't do it, but it's like Duplo blocks. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a bigger area. But also, we're also going to dive deep into the philosophical implications and deconstruct the philosophical implications of his thoughts and belief and why they probably just don't work, both on the level of intellectual property laws and rules, and just fundamentally about it runs amok. Everything, therefore, would be considered D&D canon. What wouldn't be considered D&D canon? His argument he uses as an example, Tony Soprano is Dungeons and Dragons canon, but more importantly, if he sees this video, we're gonna make the argument to him. Good sir, J.Scott Garibay, look, I love you, and I do think, look, hey man, if you're talking about using full-scale Funko Pops as D&D proxy miniatures, here we have China. Rest in peace, China. I will remember you. Lost icon. A portrait in tragedy. Golden Coin 100 says that mic sounds so good. This is the big technical development of these days, this day. I did it for you. Everything I do it for you. China. Why don't you ask them about China? I will. I'll bring it to the point. J.Scott Garibay, don't forget about the Funko Pop keychains. And that's going to be my point. We can meet J.Scott Garibay halfway and say, yes, Funko Pops can be used as D&D miniatures. We can also explore the issue of, yeah, absolutely, Funko Pop miniatures, bring Tony Soprano into the dungeon, right? Absolutely. Hey, bring Dr. Malfi. What are we doing here, Tony? Why don't we ask ourselves that most important question? What are we doing here? What are we really looking for? And don't tell me it's gold. What do you want me to tell you? We're looking for my mother? If that's what the answer is. Forget about you. Fine, Tony, forget about me. Go look for more gold. If that'll make you happy. Go cut more goblins in half. Gabagool. Listen, let's get to the video. Let's get to what we're doing. He's been talking so far. We're going to enter the video halfway. It's a 12-minute video. We're going to enter in the 6.5-minute mark. He has been talking about an artist who did illustrations for the original Monster Manual. That's what he says. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who then did illustrations for a book called The Spiderwick Chronicles. Okay. And then wrote a book that was not about D&D, not for D&D, but J.Scott Garibay is going to tell us about how a person can write a book that's totally unrelated to D&D, but how that book, totally unrelated to D&D, can become D&D canon. And along the way, we're going to explore J.Scott Garibay's philosophy about how things become D&D canon, and that's going to provide me an opportunity to talk about how that just doesn't work. Okay? You with me so far? Let's get to it and not screw it. Okay. So I share a screen, share the audio. Okay, and the name of the video is Dungeons and Dragons and Tony D. Terlizzi and talking about Wandla. I guess his book is named Wandla.
Was then Tony Dieterlisi writing a book and illustrating a book. And now at this point, he's light years away from Dungeons and Dragons, right? So, and now he's like, oh, I'm a big...
Fair use, fair use, fair use. The purpose of this video is to respond to J.Scott Garibay, not to demean or denigrate J.Scott Garibay, but to talk about the ideas that he has put forth into the public domain and to discuss those thoughts and ideas and to have a nice discussion. It's a transformative work. Not trying to steal views from the man, trying to discuss things in the spirit of fair use. Fair use.
Big boy. I'm going to pull on my big boy pants, right? I don't need D&D. And so he went ahead and he created his world, and it was not canon to D&D. He's like, hey, this is my own thing, right? And it was his own thing for about 5 minutes. And then I'll tell you how Dungeons and Dragons like, nope, it's canon to us. Right? And there's so
And it's like, the Dungeons and Dragons said, nope, it's canon to us. So like Dungeons and Dragons is an entity, a thing. It's like, think about it. It's like there's Wizards of the Coast. It's owned by Hasbro. There's the D&D community of fans and players have all sorts of feelings about Wizards of the Coast, have separate feelings about Hasbro. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I just want to throw those things out there. There's all sorts of notions about, what is Dungeons and Dragons? You know what I mean?
many properties that Dungeons and Dragons has done this to that they don't even that so many properties that aren't really aware that they are canon to D&D. All right, okay.
Like, how can something be? How can a creator of an IP, an intellectual property, not be aware that it's canon to D&D? That's what I put forward. Is how what a burden that J.Scott Garibay has to overcome to have his philosophical premise be found to be have veracity.
So he writes One Luck, right? And actually, no spoilers for One Luck in this video. So he writes One Luck, right? And it's very good. It's a good YA illustrated novel. Okay, so young adult illustrated novel. And by the way, that is I really love this genre. I love YA illustrated novels.
I just want to point out the fact that I'm currently right exploring this world of Jump Chain. So as a person that's currently immersed in the world of Pokemon, I can't throw stones here, but I do want to point out the fact that we've come to a place in educated first world society where, like, look around you, like look around at the number of doctors and lawyers and scientists that are absolutely immersed in the world of entertainment products. I mean, I just held up Funko Pops, like, right, entertainment products that are absolutely, meant for children. You know what I mean? Like, we could be reading Dostoevsky, we could be reading, the works of, Proust and Annis Nin. But how many of us between the ages of 35 and 60 are just like wasting our lives reading, isekai web novels, endless amounts of anime, and just like, talking about, like, no, seriously, One Piece hits different and it goes deep. It is philosophical. Do you know what I mean? Or just even Star Trek. Like, this is just, do you know what I mean? Just absolute trash that we as adults, like as educated first world adults, just spend the majority of our time listening. Like, even Dune, like, it's just like we are absolutely at the track. Like, I'm not exempting myself from this. Like, I feel as though, like, the reason that we do this is because we kind of know that it's like game over. Like, there's no point.
Fantastic. Can't get enough of them. I really dig them. Yeah. By the way, Larklight, if you've never read that, is another phenomenal one. Not done by Tony DeLevy, just it's different, right? But
A different novel for kids recommended to us by a person who we've discussed might have, like, who are we to judge?
I just got to mention here. All right. So he writes One Luck, right? Now, how does One Luck snap back into canon on Dungeons and Dragons? Look at this. So one of the characters is Rovender the Pathfinder. Okay, he's just one character in the book. I won't tell you anything about him because I said no spoilers, right? And look at those red stairs. Isn't that cool?
It is cool. Those red stairs, they are cool. Look at them.
Very cool. All right. So at this point, right, it's really fascinating, right? So at this point, you get to the point where you're like, how does One now connect to Dungeons and Dragons? Well, they made Funko Pops of the characters, right?
That's it. That's it. That's it. That is his argument. That is his whole point. It is canon to D&D because they made Funko Pops of the character. Full stop. It doesn't go any further than that. They made Funko Pops of the characters. They at one point made Funko Pops of characters that are associated with Dungeons and Dragons. Therefore, we can write it out. You know what I mean? I can get out a whiteboard. You know what I mean? J.Scott Garibay is a man. All men are mortals. Therefore, J.Scott Garibay is mortal. They made you know what I mean? They made Dungeons and Dragons Funko Pops. Um, Zombie Captain Avengers of Funko Pop. Therefore, Captain Avengers canonical to Dungeons and Dragons. That's the logic. I mean, it's not a logical argument, but that's the logic of it. It doesn't hold forth, but that's the logic that he's putting out there. But of course, let's follow the logic, because he's going to get to Tony Soprano is canonical to Dungeons and Dragons. Miss Piggy is canonical to Dungeons and Dragons. Folks,
You're like, well, Scott, how does that make it canon to D&D? How do you make something canon to D&D? You make miniatures that are perfectly at the scale of the D&D miniatures that have been made to use in the game.
right? But the miniatures that are scaled to Dungeons and Dragons were that scale was in existence before Dungeons and Dragons. So what and Funko Pops are not. He's going to make the point that Funko Pops, like this Funko Pop I have of, it's not Rachel from working at, you know, off the perk, or percolation central perk. This is actually Jennifer Aniston working at Tchotchkes. Like, well, no, that's the place from Office Space. You could tell by her flair. The Nazis had pieces of flair they made the Jews wear. Hell yeah.
Right, in Dungeons and Dragons. So Funko Pop has made miniatures, and actually, which is just a regular size Funko Pop. You can use those as miniatures for your.
Yeah, but I could use a regular by that definition. These are not scaled to look, folks. Hold on, let's stop for a minute. Remember, I started off this video by showing. Look, he's not even doing this. I showed these, showing how you could take the Funko Pop keychains, take off the keychain part, and you could use these as miniatures. They're not perfectly scaled, but they're of a scale that's more similar to Dungeons and Dragons miniatures, right? He's saying that these Funko Pops are perfectly scaled to Dungeons and Dragons. First of all, that's demonstrably not true. Second of all, what do you mean to Dungeons and Dragons? That's any miniature that's the miniature for a tabletop role playing game is a miniature that's scaled to any tabletop role playing game. What makes a Dungeons and Dragons scale? Second of all, this is in no way, shape, or form the standard scale of any Dungeons and Dragons game that you've ever seen played. I'm not saying you can't play tabletop role playing game at this scale. You're gonna have to get wild with the teddy bear's the dragon, you know what I mean? Wheelchair Barbie is the golem or whatever. You can do whatever you want. Look, hold on. This little lady is from, I think she's from Black Clover. I get Funko Pops not based on the different products. I get them on what they individually look like. This chick is fly. She could totally be like play Dungeons and Dragons with her all day, but you'd be like, you know what I mean? It's gonna be like a monster scale table. I mean, you and your friends are gonna have like the time of your lives. I mean, it's gonna be huge. You're gonna be like, walking around the tavern's gonna be the size of, like, you could be building that thing with Duplo blocks, like I said, or you're going to run out of bricks real quick. You know what I'm saying? But this is not the scale of anything that you've seen people standard play. Unless, this is like, unless you're playing like, if this, okay, check this out. Here's like, I don't know why he's never done this, because he would plots. You can get these Warhammer Lego guys from Timo, right? So if this is like a Warhammer guy, this gal is like, she's like a dreadnought, right? But even then, I'm meeting the dude halfway. But even meeting the dude halfway, he's still stretching things beyond all levels of imagination. Hadrian 72. If only I wasn't wasting my life on something as highbrow as One Piece. There you go. Hey, man. So that's how it becomes canon.
game. Yeah, they're like 6 inches tall, or they're about 5 inches tall, right? But they work just fine. I've run with Funko Pops. If you haven't done it,
So, but by that argument, you can run anything. So if these things, first of all, what plan are you on that this is 6 inches high? Okay, this dude, hold on, this little lady, this is a McFarlane Catwoman, right? Whatever from the Batman. She's not even 6 inches high. The Funko Pop is like 3 inches high. But you know what I mean? That means you could play with anything. Like here is a reaction figure version of Stinkor, right? And here is a reaction version of Snake Eyes. So these guys are at the same scale. I can play D&D with these guys. Does that make them canonical to D&D because you can play with them at on the table? Can anything that can be played with is now canonical to D&D because you can play with them? I can play with myself. Am I canonical to D&D?
and it works great actually. And one of the things is, when I use them, I don't do it. It's not like 5 inch scale. It's just to show position, right? And they work extremely well. What I've done, the one that I've done them for, there's just so many worlds, and that's why I use them. It's like if there's a world, they're excellent. Okay, so if you don't know, Dritz Doerden and about half a dozen other Dungeons and Dragons miniatures were made, just regular size Funko Pops, which is establishes as a miniature for Dungeons and Dragons, right? It also says.
So his argument is that if you make if any they because they made Funko Pops of various things for Dungeons and Dragons, that establishes it as a line of miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. Therefore, anything else made for Funko Pop is at the scale of a Dungeons and Dragons miniature. Therefore, it's canonical to Dungeons and Dragons. But of course, that doesn't work, because then everything that's been made into a Funko Pop is canonical to Dungeons and Dragons, but that stretches the definition of canonical to Dungeons and Dragons to a ridiculous level, because that means anything. They made Funko Pops of the cast of Friends. They made innumerable Funko Pops of Eminem and T-Pain. You know what I mean? And Notorious B.I.G. None of these individuals are canonical to Dungeons and Dragons in any way, shape, or form. And just because Funko Pop, the individual independent company, made a licensing deal with the people that own Dungeons and Dragons products, and then they made independent individual licensing deals with the people that owned Marvel products and DCU products, doesn't mean that, because then why is it that these things are canonical to Dungeons and Dragons? Why is it not that Dungeons and Dragons are canonical to the Marvel universe, right? Isn't it patently obvious that there are more Marvel Funko Pops than there are Dungeons and Dragons Funko Pops? Therefore, why is it that the Marvel characters are canonical to Dungeons and Dragons? Shouldn't it be logical that the Dungeons and Dragons world is canonical to Marvel? Wouldn't it be that whatever there's the most Funko Pops of, that the other Funko Pops are canonical to that? Why would everything be, all these independently larger number of Funko Pop products, be canonical to something that just has a small number of Funko Pops? The only reason you think this is because you happen to be beholden and love Dungeons and Dragons as a product. I love you as a human being, but that is the fundamental flaw with your reasoning. This seems patently obvious to you, but it's patently obvious to many other people that it wouldn't work that way, because it doesn't work that way.
As, hey, Funko Pop is like we're a shared world, right? So you can put
No one says that it's a shared world. It's just no one says the Funko Pop is a shared world. You just believe that. I think you could put all the Funko Pops next to each other if you want to. There's some people that would never do that. They would never put their Marvel Funko Pops next to their DC Funko Pops, next to their sitcom Funko Pops. There's some people that would freak out if they walked into a collector's room and the Funko Pops were just arranged in a particular way that they wouldn't arrange their own individual Funko Pops, because people are funny.
Tony Soprano right next to Captain Marvel. That's the point, right? Tell stories.
That's not the point. That's what you think is the point to make your point, but that's not the point. The point of Funko Pops is because, well, first of all, the point of Funko Pops is different for every individual collector. There's some people that really think that the point of Funko Pops is to buy a silly piece of plastic that they think is going to be an investment, that they think for some automatic reason is going to increase in value for some ridiculous assumption that they're going to be able to sell at some point in the future and therefore not have to work for a living, that they're going to have bought little boxes of nothing, and that therefore at some point in the future they're going to be able to sell little boxes of nothing in lieu of actually having gotten real jobs, that they're going to have found some way to beat the system, so instead of having to go work for a living, they'll have just been able to spend their lives, basically jerking off, right, watching TV, watching movies, collecting ephemera loosely related to those things, and then have found some sort of loophole by collecting ephemera loosely related to those things and then make $1 million out of it. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way, but it is what it is. Maybe not. For me, I like Funko Pops. I like knowing that they don't come with a million different accessories. I don't have to worry about collecting a whole bunch of different, keeping track of a whole bunch of different little hands. And when they fall on the ground, I don't have to worry about them getting chipped and broken and whatever. And they generally stand and they all look, you know what I mean? They look, kind of adorable, and you can pat them on the head. I like them. I get them out of the box. I get them out of the box. I don't do this collecting them bullshit. I buy them. I open them up. I get them out of the box. Stack them around, toss them around. They fall on the ground. I pick them up, put them back on the shelf.
They've even made their own games to do that, right? So it's a shared world. So
It's one of many shared worlds. There used to be another game before there was Hero Clicks. There was this other game. I think it was called like Hero Snaps or something, where all the figures fit on these like hexagons. There might have been like Hero Clicks too, or Clicks or something. It was like something. It was I forget what the name of the game was. It like went out, but it was like you could get Marvel characters, you get DC characters, you get all these different characters, and they were like had all these like rules for like how they could be interchanged and whatever, and the terrain was all hexes, so that you could stack them infinitely, whatever. That guy like the big board game guy on YouTube has like a whole bunch of them in bins.
every single intellectual property that's ever been made in Funko Pop is made at scale to be used with the Dungeons and Dragons.
That's what you say. It can be used at D&D, but you say that it is supposed to be. You're saying that it's purposely built. There's no reason to believe that it was purposely built to be used for D&D. Just because something can be used for D&D doesn't mean that it was supposed to be used for D&D. Like here, check this out. Here's Vampira. Let me stop sharing for a second so you can see this. Here's a reaction figure of Vampira, right? Now check this out. Here's Snake Eyes, right? Now they're two different figures from two different IPs, but they're made by the same company, right? So Vampira being made by the same company, it's like it's perfect. It's totally perfect to imagine that whatchamacallit, that Baroness went to a costume ball dressed as Vampira. She was totally made to be Baroness at a costume ball as Vampira. Just because she totally works as that doesn't mean we say hello. We hello, Tim Frey. Hello, hello, hello. Doesn't mean that she was purposely built to be Baroness at a costume ball as Vampira. The figure was made to be Vampira. Just because we can have Vampira now hanging out with the G.I. Joe guys, and just because Reaction decided to remake the He-Man figures like Stinkor, and check this guy out. This guy's awesome. Here we have why am I blanking on the dude's name? The guy whose head extends. I forget. Why am I blanking on dude's name? I forget. I forgive myself. Like whatever his dude's name is. His head goes up. He's one of the few reaction figures that actually has a play function. Whatever. They remade some of the He-Man guys at this scale that totally works with G.I. Joe guys, right? Or G.I. Joe guys are old school Star Wars guys. So that you could totally play with the He-Man characters with your old school Star Wars guys without feeling like, oh man, like the He-Man guys like totally look like, giants compared to these other guys. It doesn't make any sense that they're existing together. That's great. But they didn't do that Like, like it just because they did that doesn't mean that it makes it awesome if you play with your figures, but it doesn't mean that all of a sudden now GI Joe is canonically connected to the world of He-Man. You could do it in your imagination. Like there's nothing stopping you from playing that. Oh my God, it's Stinkor on a special mission with Snake Eyes. I'll totally do that. There's a reason why I get these guys like people. If you buy reaction figures and you keep them on the board so that you can pretend like what? So you can pretend like your living room is a toy store. You're an asshole. Like I don't. Well, I'm not gonna yuck you up. You're a human being. You collect different than me. I get these guys out so they can be like, "Who are you?" I'm Snake Eye, or I don't talk. So I'm like, I'm not. You don't talk. And he's like, you smell. And he's like, let's go on a mission together. Okay, sounds good. Right? You know what I mean? But I don't go into the place up to people and be like, dude, oh my God, did you know that Stinkor is totally now a member of G.I. Joe in real life? It happened because this company made figures of that. What? It doesn't work that way, dude. I'm like overthinking at this point. Let me go back to the video because it works better when I concentrate on what he's saying. Right? It makes me sound like let's look a jerk.
For it to work, right? So like Tony Soprano is at scale so that you can bring him into the Forgotten Realms in high school.
He's not at scale, so you could bring him out to the Forgotten Realms. He's at look. When an intellectual property is turned into a Funko Pop, it goes through a general process of Funkofication, right? There's a general parameter. We know what generally makes a Funko Pop. Some of them have mouths, most of them don't. You know that it's a girl Funko Pop because it has like little the regular black eyes. Like here's Phoebe as Supergirl, dressed up as Supergirl. They have like eyelashes, right? And like generally they have like the same sized head generally. They have the same little body and they keep enough of the things so that you know what the character is, and then they just generally they Funko them. Do you know what I mean? And the purpose is so that people collect Funko Pops. It's like Pez dispensers. It's a Pez dispenser with the head of whoever the thing is a Pez dispenser of. You know what I mean? Why am I explaining this?
That's the point of it, right?
No, the point of it is to make a Funko Pop.
And people don't understand this. They don't understand that Funko Pops are Dungeons and Dragons official miniatures and Dungeons.
They're not official miniatures. To be an official miniature, you would need to have the ampersand on it. It would need to be an official Dungeons and Dragons product put out by Hasbro as an official Dungeons and Dragons product. Funko Pop is not associated with Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast. They licensed from Wizards of the Coast specific things to make specific Dungeons and Dragons affiliated Funko Pops. The other things that they did with other companies are independent things. There will be a time probably where they do make Dungeons and Dragons sub-license things, like they made Magic the Gathering cards for Transformers and for like Warhammer 40K, and like they just did for Final Fantasy, which I'm gonna get my hands on because I'm a Final Fantasy nut. But what you're describing is not reality. You know what I mean? It's nice to think about as far as look, dude, if you want to play with Tony Soprano in the dungeon with Supergirl Phoebe and you know Hot Dom Bella Porch and Zombie Captain America, you know what I mean? Get your rocks off, baby, but that does not make them official miniatures. Lego is not the official miniature manufacturer of Dungeons and Dragons. It is what it is, baby. I love you, man, but it doesn't work that way. To just have it work that way would literally make every intellectual property made for Funko Pops official Dungeons and Dragons canon, and that would mean that everything in the world is Dungeons and Dragons canon. That's not how it works.
Dragons terrain. It is astonishing, right? Like, and that these
it's astonishing that you believe that that's how the world works.
shared worlds, right? And if you're like, oh, I don't know,
They're not shared worlds, dude.
that, oh yeah, they've made games where they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna play with all the Funko Pops you have. That's the reason why they're at the same scale, right? It's not just the
That's not the reason why they're at the same scale. The reason at the same scale is because Funko Pop has established scales.
there's not just sit them on a shelf. They've made games that you can play your Funko Pops with. Funko Pop did that, right? And so, and then also, if you make a plastic scaled version, you've made a D&D miniature. And if you make terrain, again, these are game parts.
What if you're not playing Dungeons and Dragons? What if you're playing, say, oh, I don't know, Riffs? See, that's the other problem is that you're going to have J.Scott Garibay is that while Dungeons and Dragons is canonically a world that takes place in a mostly quasi medieval, maybe it's sort of like the Renaissance. Sometimes people play sort of, maybe, kind of, no one plays in Spelljammer world where there's kind of spaceships. If you really want to talk about it, people played Rifts, either straight Palladium Rifts or Savage World Rifts, where there's literally robot people, mechs, and orcs and elves and magic users interacting with each other. And Savage Worlds is absolutely more akin to a tabletop world, much less theater of the mind. Then you'd be kind of making some sense. But then again, no one would go crazy and say, like, oh, this stuff is canonical, is made for it, but you would absolutely be able to use it. It would make more sense. It doesn't make sense to think of Tony Soprano ending up in Dungeons and Dragons unless he ended up there by some sort of crazy rift. But speaking of rifts, it makes total sense to think of a guy like Tony Soprano ending up in the world of rifts and interacting with a glitter boy, and then having to end up dealing with a harpy. Duh. I'm sorry to be like that, but you know enough about tabletop role playing games to know that the world of rifts exist. You just love Dungeons and Dragons so much that you want to believe that everything is going to somehow be able to be roped into it. But you're fighting on a losing battle here. You just can't win this war.
For D&D. And the vast majority of the world does not understand how this works. And I don't think
You know why? Because the vast majority of the world knows that this is an illogical argument that doesn't work. You're wrong, dude. I love you as a human being and a child of God, but you are just absolutely, it's an untenable argument that just does not hold water. You've been disproven. Dungeons and Dragons does not hold an exclusive right to miniatures of any particular scale. Therefore, any argument that you make regarding scales, miniatures, tying things to any particular world doesn't work, because it could be for Rifts, it could be for Warhammer, it could be for Gamma World, right? It could be for, I don't know, Pathfinder. It could be for Delta Green. Suck on that. It could be for Delta Green. Your precious Funko miniature Tony Soprano could be a simple paper pusher and pencil plebe in the world of Delta Green. Where who is it that's on the power trip? Is it the dungeon master, or is it the player? It's understandable. Your logic is flawed, sir. I love you, child of God. I love you, sir. I love you, sir. I don't know what to do with you, my friend.
I think even Tony DiDolisi realized that he made Wanla separate than D&D, but it's now fully canon.
No, it's not. It's not, bro. I love you, man. I'm not gonna get upset with you about it, but it'd be nice if you were to watch this video and come up with a response. Listen to my points. I think they're fairly easy to understand. I think they're fairly cognizable, and respond to them.
Right? And in my humble opinion, and the reason why is, I think Dungeons and Dragons infiltrates properties. It is astonishing how clever and how good this is. And a lot of this is because of James Wyatt. James Wyatt.
A lot of this, it infiltrates properties because of James Wyatt. Okay, who's no longer associated with Dungeons and Dragons? Okay, bro.
Hacked the executive suite, like, of every company in the world. And
James Wyatt hacked the executive suite of every company in the world. Oh yeah, did he hack the executive suite of Nabisco? Did he hack the executive suite of Honeycut? There's one, right? You can tell that I'm a fucking baller because I mentioned that company. If there's people out there who's like, holy shit, he mentioned Honeycut. Fucking A. Don't fucking tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Did he fucking hack the executive suite of fucking J.R. Reynolds? Hmm?
And I think they'll write books about this someday, no question.
I'm sure
Every
they
single
will.
word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing
That's
more,
nice.
nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments
Great.
and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.
I'll consider it. We love you, bro.
Bye, friends.
Hi, friends. Anyway, there you go. So, in summation, he got a new haircut. He got new glasses. He got new glasses. And he got a new haircut a while ago. I think he got the haircut a while ago. So anyway, so I hope you like the new microphone. I hope it works. Remember, folks, in summation, I agree. I disagree with J.Scott Garibay regarding how that Funko Pops, that the scale of Funko Pops means that anything. I disagree with J.Scott Garibay on his central point that because there are official Dungeons and Dragons Lego products, because they're official Dungeons and Dragons licensed Funko Pops, that therefore, because that anything also that exists as a Funko Pop or a Lego product is also canonical to D&D. I hope that I made that point. I'm not going to repeat myself because that would be Limburger cheese. But I will say where I do have common ground is the notion that you can play with Funko Pops in lieu of traditional miniatures for your tabletop role playing games, though they are at a considerably larger scale. Of course, you're not forced to do the entire crawl, or you could just use them to illustrate, general um, marching order, or when you actually get to a particular scenario or where a place where placement is necessary, then break them out onto the table, unless you want to go whole hog. And then I also want to say to J. Scott Garibay on a personal note, and to people in the general audience, while the Funko Pops, the regular size Funko Pops do present that larger scale issue, on the subject of Funko Pops as miniature alternatives, as I said in the start of the video, getting the Funko Pop keychains, you merely remove the keychain part, and then you are free to mount. Some of them can stand free to mount these lovely Funko Pop keychains on little bases, and there you go. Bob's your uncle, as they say. And many of them, even the modern ones, like these black pink ladies, make lovely, lovely alternative miniatures. Think outside of the box. While these ones could easily work in a cyberpunk setting, I think you'll agree that this little lady could easily, her outfit could see itself in especially on modern D&D. I mean, when I say modern D&D, I mean if you look at the art for the new modern D&D books, they're way out there. Here we have, I think this is, what do we say this lady's name was? I think this is Rose. Oh, she's catching my fancy. I love this. I love this. I love this green coat over the. It's like when the middle aged lady is spicing up the is takes the advice from the marriage counselor to spice up the marriage and greets the man at the door underneath the house coat. You can leave your Karen on. I'm telling you. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Hadrian72 says, off topic, but I expect a surge of JSG content soon because Professor DM released a video today with Orion Okaba in the thumbnail. You have got to be kidding me. Hadrian72, listen, I've been bitten before, so I'll tell you this. But I do want to say this. I do have a retraction to make. It was pointed out by another viewer. I had made a video. I ended up making a destructive edit. I swear it was inadvertently. It had been a while since I had tried to do an edit with the YouTube editor, and I used the wrong, I guess, command file. I how to describe it. I ended up making a destructive edit where I just wanted to make a clip, trying to cut out the jump chain portion of a video. I ended up taking out the portions where I was talking about a video where I had said that J.Scott Garibay was referring to a a video that I said didn't exist. It did exist, but of course, it did not question the sanity of the. I didn't find the video. It was there was another alternative channel by this group, the character sheet by comicbook.com. So they did make a video that said uh, critical role insanity question mark exclamation point. So a viewer did find that video, but it did not question, of course, it did not question the actual sanity of any of the members of Critical Role. So I just wanted to point that out. But I will look to see if I don't doubt you at all, Hadrian72. So I'll check that out. I'll check that out. There you go. But I do plan on making a future videos. I do have to make videos about the jump chain journey. By way of spoiler alert of that, we're going to be finishing up our time in the Pokemon trainer jump chain, and we're going to be moving on to the fifth element. The fifth element. Now, here's a spoiler for you. In the world of the fifth element, I believe, if all things go according to plan, that we're actually going to be picking up additional Pokemon in the world of the fifth element. How's that going to work, Benjamin? How's that going to work? You're going to have to join those videos to see that. We're almost coming up on an hour here, so we're going to end here. Folks, I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, someone just did. That somebody is me. Make of that what you will, because you will. Can't help yourselves. That's the way brains work. Okay? Our tarot card for this video is the Magician. It makes perfect sense, right? Because we've got our boy Scott Garibay doing what he does, doing what people do. Be careful that you don't do it yourself, right? The Magician can do powerful things, for himself, can do powerful things for others, but be careful. Don't get high on your own supply. The mind can be an amazing thing, but if you're not careful, you can play tricks on yourself and you can make the world be whatever you want it to be, but you can end up spinning yourself out into a world of your own delusion. Okay? And that's not necessarily a place you want to be. So check in with your friends, check in with your family, check in with strangers, check in with people that you think may be people that you may think are your adversaries and enemies. And if they're all saying to you that you're not making sense, don't be scared to listen to what they're laying down. It won't hurt you to think about what the world is saying if the entire world is saying to you that what you're saying doesn't seem to make sense. Just a thought. Okay, I love you until catch you next time. Okay? Until next time.